I think it's streaming. So hopefully it's working. Welcome to the podcast. Here's the bit before it starts properly, because people will still be finding us. I've got the demographic breakdown of our audience on Spotify. You'll be unsurprised to hear the vast majority of people listen in the United Kingdom.
Oh, right.
But we do have at least one person streaming these episodes in Liechtenstein.
Yes, big
Hello. Czechia. The Lebanon. Thailand, Argentina, Costa Rica, Malta, the UAE, Israel, Indonesia, Qatar, Luxembourg, Portugal and Finland. Those all have one person listening to us, or has listened to us on Spotify. They've never come back to listen to a second episode,
Right.
but they've listened to us at least once. So well done to all those people. Worryingly, 16th on the list is unknown, which I don't know if he's like code or something.
The moon.
Well done to you. And also, I can tell you our age breakdown of audience, because people are interested in this kind of thing. What do you think is the largest listening age group?
Is the age band sort of like 50 and above?
There is 60 and above. There's the correct answer is 45 to 59.
Yeah.
And 35 to 44. Surprisingly, 88.3% of this audience is male. All this work we do for Women's Rugby League, and they're not coming and listening.
It sounds a bit like Rugby League itself.
Female, 9.1%. But a big hello to the 2.6% who are non-specified, non-binary. You are welcome in our programme.
Absolutely.
Welcome to the programme.
They're probably in Finland as well.
And in Finland. Welcome. We had some comments on last week's programme. I know we haven't started properly yet, but this is what you expect.
Were they disparaging?
No, they were quite good, actually, I think. Let's have a look. Kev said, I don't know why Warrington played Widnes in a friendly on a Friday night. Money. Well, no, the Friday night bit's question. Friendly's usually on a weekend to maximise attendance. Was impressed with Widnes, though. They look a decent team, and well done to the Widnes fans who brought about 400 noisy people. Did they win at the weekend, Widnes? They did. They beat Rochdale, didn't they? So they're over.
They did.
NRL Atlantic, says Martin. The RFL will need to pay out a lot of money to Ipsos Mori or some such outfit to get that idea checked out in Dewsbury, Rochdale, Whitehaven, etc. The lads are back, says Kevin as well. I'm sure there's more comments than that. I think it's because I've put a love's heart on them, they disappear. Salford, says Martin, my main portion, the person he's blaming the most for is the council. Money is very tight in local government, I know that, but their approach has been plodding and bureaucratic. I could say that. The time wasted could have been crucial for the club, but was lost. What concerned me was yesterday, I saw Gary Carter's message.
Right.
I think it was on Facebook about it, saying that the talks had been delayed because they had a game to play. What? You know the bookshop downstairs?
I've heard of it.
If you were doing a business deal...
Yeah.
Do you just say, oh, can't do it today, we're playing out?
I
don't know. I don't know what business deal will be about.
I think Gary is probably the most informed on this, and I'm sure there's a lot of stuff he's holding back because he has to. I did have a chat with him at the championship launch, of which he told me some stuff and incredible detail. But it seems to be it's two deals. One is for the stadium, which is continued upon the council. One is for the club. The club one is not expected to be a difficult one. It's the stadium one, what's involved, all that kind of thing.
Can't they buy like the share like Uncle Ken's doing? Not that Uncle Ken, the other Uncle Ken.
I would say
yes.
that we have to start this episode,
We're not started yet.
our pre-season special, by saying you can't read anything into
Congratulations, Salford! You've won the grand final along with Leeds and
pre-season. You
Wakefield.
can't read anything into anything we're going to say tonight because it will have no relevance whatsoever to the mistakes we make later in the year.
Robert says...
Plus we will rotate our squad.
Oh yes, yeah. James is coming, don't worry. Mismatches in cup games need to be avoided at all costs. I saw Newcastle Thunder against Wakefield last season. When a former came out onto the pitch, they looked like callow young students, which is exactly what they were in reality. And I was generally worried about their safety. In the end, they survived, conceded 110 points, but the fact that they kept trying to the final whistle and endeared them to the crowd, who gave them a great ovation. However, in a sport where physicality increasingly dictates the results, I really don't think you can have teams below Championship playing against Super League opposition and expect a reasonable and brackets and watchable fair contest. We need more of Deutsch's anywhere in impression before we can judge it, by the way. Oh, don't worry, you just ask him and he'll do it.
I think not only is that a valid point, but there is a slight hypocrisy about duty of care and then putting full-time professionals up against, with the greatest respect to them, leisure players, for want of a better word. Great experience for them, but not if they get injured, not if there's a danger that, you know, they might be put off playing the sport in the future because of the experience that they've had. And from a PR point of view, it isn't going to be great to justify some huge results. When it comes to Super League teams playing those clubs, who do they select? Because no doubt we'll talk about the big injury news today, which came in a friendly. It will upset some plans that Leeds have made for the remainder of the season if one of their star signings is not now available. What would happen if, say, I don't know, Johnny Lomax is injured, playing in a game that St Helens know that they're going to win anyway, but because all the Super League teams have cut back on the number of pre-season friendlies they're going to have, because they wanted to include the Cup round as effectively a testing ground for their entry into Super League the following week, who do they play? They have to play some of their senior players. It's asking for trouble.
Should we ask Fred for a price on the Challenge Cup format changing next year again? When are we going to come in the group stage? Are we beginning the group stage?
I just don't know why we didn't further. It's seeded, but seed it so that it could only be Championship clubs against Super League clubs.
Well, we're looking forward to Leeds going to Wests.
Or West going to Leeds, as it may turn out.
And Saints going to West Hull, and York Acorn versus Otherwell. And York might still be going to take on Hull. Well, no, they're at home to Hull KR. If they can beat Keighley, who they have to play this week, because they're in Amsterdam. Hello to LG, who's in Amsterdam. Were you there? Hello to Andy, who's in Warrington. Were you in Warrington this week? Did Warrington play this weekend? Did they have a friendly against? I don't think they did they? The week off. Can you delay the podcast for 10 minutes? Asked Phil. Just at the Indian takeaway picking up my dinner.
Are you with James Child?
I don't know what. Paul, I will be down as unknown as I live in my own little Trump-free world. That's going back to the Spotify.
There's plenty of us there.
Hello to all our Spotify listeners. Yeah, but he's going to be at the game at the Allegiant Stadium because Peter Volandis has invited him.
He hasn't yet.
Oh, has he not yet? Oh.
I think he said it would be great if he could. And yes, he's got the headlines that he needs.
I've got these biscuits on my head.
By saying he's going to invite him.
These are I realise I've put them next to the microphone. These are the official biscuits of the Rugby Football League Vice President, you realise. These are her favourite biscuits.
Endorsed by.
Yeah. Pounding heaven food, so stock up, kids. I was there, says LG. Was a good day, met lots of nice KR fans and a few Dutch. So, yeah. Did you meet any York fans?
No, it's a great initiative. Hats off to Hull KR.
You were nearly there. Well, I mean, nearly as in so much not nearly, but... You know.
Yes, bizarrely. But not. And let's hope. The big thing, I think, to come out of it was not who won. And again, it's pre-season, kids. Don't read too much into it. Well, not kids, obviously, because none of our audience are kids. The fact is that Paul Lakin was talking about it being a 5-year commitment. And I think if these sort of things are going to work, it can't be hit and hope. It's got to be right. What worked this year? The capacity of the ground, I think, is maybe 5,000. LG will probably confirm. Could they have doubled the crowd? So the aim next year is whether they play York again or however it is, we'll get more people there. The word will get round. It was a great day. Good standard rugby league. Dan Russell proposed to his girlfriend at half time in the middle of the field.
Has that gone? I didn't know about that. Has that not gone viral? Is that not a thing we've made a big thing of? That's the kind of thing.
I think Mr. Mascord, who was there, has made quite a big thing of it, including interviewing Dan about why he did it.
So I missed that one. Yeah, that's always a good question. Dangerous one.
And I suspect that there's some merit as well in York and Hull KR building up a kind of rivalry and going 2 or 3 times, and then maybe they're talking about perhaps taking it to other European cities like Dublin was mentioned. If only we'd ever played
in Dublin
a Charity Shield there before and followed it up. So I think the important thing is that it for Hull KR, a bit like the NRL and Vegas, it's not a one-off jaunt. if they're going to do it every year, if they're going to plan even more things around what was successful, there was a danger at one point of, I know that Hull KR's team and York's side flew out on Saturday morning at 8:30 and came back at 11:30 Saturday night. If the weather on Saturday had been like it was on Friday, the teams wouldn't have got there.
No.
So again, you might
Steve might have played.
You might have to build in some other stuff. I think it was great that the Netherlands Rugby League had their own state of origin, East v West in men's and women's. So again, Dutch people that were going for the first time might have decided, actually I can play this game, or I can get involved in the game on my own doorstep. It's not just the elite coming and playing. So for so many reasons, it's a great initiative.
Andy says, "Are you lads going Vegas?" He's shouting at us. No, got no money. Got to pay my tax bill. Got to do my tax. HMRC, sick of them.
Excuse me, this.
But I'll talk to the people. But have you got a shirt out yet, Andy? Because Wigan have got an exciting kit, haven't they, with the American flag on and such. Warrington, primrose and blue. You can have Donald Trump's hair. I don't know. That Wigan tweet with Conor McGregor's still up. Has anyone told them yet? LG, I was there. I read that bit. Was a few York fans there, just hanging around, taking lots of pics. Cheap beers, could fit another 1,000 in or more. Well, that's all right, isn't it? I've been to the Netherlands once. Hockey tour, 1998. Supposed to do mock A levels, but went and messed around in Rotterdam for a weekend. Great fun, especially when the kids decided they could buy hemp drink, which had the big leaf on the can, so they thought they were getting high, but obviously it was just like Umbongo, but with a leaf on the front. Might Midlands been with a chance if Salford have to sell half our players? Asked Chris. Well, that's not in a minute. James Charles here. Look.
I'm here.
How are you, James?
Late. Better late than never, huh?
We're rotating the squad.
I'm just wondering, is this the sun that's under the table?
Yeah,
no,
it's
the sun. Peter.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's your orange glow.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Do you watch the NFL?
I don't watch much. Never mind NFL. No, I don't watch NFL.
So we need to talk about their great tactic now, don't we?
Yes.
We'll talk about that in a bit. About
Terminology.
Yeah. Because Matt Newsom says he wants to say it on the BBC, which if he did would be brilliant. But no, we're not going to Vegas. Ian says, evening from St Helens. Worried for Cornwall after their result and hearing mutterings after Saints versus Salford. Well, we'll talk about the mutterings about Saints and Salford in a moment. Cornwall have been taken over by an actual...
Yes.
That's actually happened, as opposed to the Salford one, which hasn't happened yet. But they were hammered by North Wales Crusaders, who also been taken over for the second time in a year. 52-0.
Takeover derby.
Yeah. So...
You've got to feel for Workington. I mean, we talked a bit about the value of some of the issues around the Challenge Cup and its new format. But Workington, who will get very, very limited central funding and who have to go to Cornwall in the ordinary league season, which will probably take most of that funding, their Challenge Cup tie was against the Royal Navy, who are in...
Portsmouth.
Yeah. And it looked like it was almost underwater, that pitch.
Well, that would be appropriate for the Royal Navy. Playing at fullback, sub.
They were all at sea and blah,
yes,
blah,
a
blah,
sub cable.
Okay.
Yeah. Haha. But again, it's like Workington. How do you manage your finances if even before your season has started you've had to do a round trip that is the longest in English Rugby League?
That's the beauty of the cup.
Yes, the magic of the cup. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The magic of going bankrupt in the early rounds.
Yeah, I didn't actually listen to the first few minutes of this. So if you were talking Challenge Cup, I missed it. I was on the phone.
No, we were filling.
But I was
like the rest of the.
I was just interested in your comment there about the values, and I'm struggling to see what they are from the structure that we've currently got, which I think
we were talking about
is a shambles.
Super League teams playing
shambles,
social-based teams.
Yeah, it's rubbish. I think it's borderline unsafe. I don't know how this idea has come about. Where this is, I'm guessing clubs have led some of this.
Well, I get the seeding to give Championship clubs a Super League opponent.
I get that.
But only if it's one they want that big crowd and not Catalans.
But why then don't you seed it further to make sure that they can't play community clubs? And the community, some of the community clubs, West Hull, York Acorn, that they are established.
But Leeds Rhinos are playing
West Warriors.
Yeah, they're not even in the National Conference League. There's Southern Conference or something, isn't it?
But the other
It's
thing
off
is
the
that
scale.
we're already talking about moving fixtures. So there's a very good chance, I'm told, that West Warriors will be playing Leeds Rhinos at Headingley.
Well, I'd expect so, because it's a
part
cash
of that comes
cow.
from West Warriors wanting to play at Headingley. If they're going to make an experience of this, and
Absolutely.
they're going to get beaten wherever they play, they may as well play at Headingley.
Saves Gary having to book a coach. That's good news. Saves a bit of money that way.
Well, ultimately for them, it's just a cash, isn't it? And they all know of playing at a venue, as prestigious as Headingley. But
there's a
what does that do for the game?
But it defeats the object then of seeding a draw to make sure.
Agreed. I don't know. And if you're Leeds, you're not playing your first team. You're playing your academy
But
string.
we were just talking about you want to play your first team because you earmark that game where you would possibly be going to Odsal or to Featherstone to play your full team because you're a week before Super League start. So
You'd
it
want
actually
to do,
puts your
but they're not going to do, are they?
They shouldn't do.
Yeah,
I think they're going to have to play some of them.
How strong a team do you need to put out to beat a Southern Conference team?
But the other problem is
they'd be better arranging a game behind closed doors against, or just a game against their academy side or something like that for match fitness and practice than that, in my view.
The danger, of course, is injury as well.
Yeah.
So they've lost Mike Acevo for the season after yesterday's friendly against Wigan. That's been announced today, which you probably didn't see.
I saw something about Sivo, and I didn't.
He's
It's
out
one of
for
those
the year.
clickbait headlines, and I thought, whenever I see one, I deliberately don't click them.
Clickbait head. Shocked.
But in fairness, it probably would have been a justified headline if he's gone for the season.
If you can hear creaking, it's not my knee, it's the heater.
Right, okay.
I thought it was someone outside drilling. I didn't realise it was.
Although
the
it could be my knee.
Yeah.
The golden glow on the back of the set. We haven't got one of those neon signs you get on those proper podcasts. It's just the heater underneath. Andrew has been on. Love the magic of the Challenge Cup. We had the Battle of Dewsbury over the weekend. Next up is the battle against the noisy neighbours over the hill. Wakefield next up, hopefully. Well, we've got to see what the draw brings us.
Yeah, and that is the magic of the cup. You know, having said that, Dewsbury and Batley have already played once this season. This is the second time. I know they're in different leagues, so they're not going to play each other during the league. But
It could draw 1895 Cup.
Hull KR have just played York, and they're playing York next weekend in consecutive weekends.
And the weather is also an issue. That we were saying that there was an element of fortune that Hull KR and York got to Amsterdam because had it been a day later that the storms came, they would never have left Leeds Bradford Airport.
Yeah.
So again, everything's crammed in to the point where if we did get a cold snap and we couldn't play the second round, the third round's on the doorstep.
Yeah.
It's
And then throw in the 1895 Cup, which I only saw something very fleetingly on.
But we don't care about that anymore.
And is that a truncated competition? We've got
That
numerous
changes
iterations
format
of
every
that.
year.
I'm going to
two
say every
preliminary
year.
rounds now instead of a group stage.
Okay.
Can't say preliminary. Don't want two of them. No, dearie me. It kicks off this week apparently with Rochdale versus Cornwall. So Cornwall have to at Rochdale Mayfield because it's no one's going to turn up at whatever it's called these days. And Midlands versus Whitehaven and Newcastle versus North Wales. Those are the first preliminary.
Prelim.
Yeah, where's Derek with his? Why did he put some glasses on Derek to do
Apparently
a video?
we're going to be using that a lot. Those. I thought they were X-ray.
Is that the ones that
specs.
didn't work when I wore them on the pitch at
Yeah.
Magic Weekend? Are Halifax hoping to play Catalans in France to get more money than playing at the Chasse, Andrew? Well, if Ken takes the ground over, he want some rent, won't he? But that's what Catalan media says on Twitter today. Magic of the Cup.
And he knows.
Halifax switching their game to France. You can't have, all right, we want a Super League team at home. Oh, but we've got the wrong one now, so we're going to have to switch. No.
And they can ring up Catalan and go, look, save your chartering a plane.
Can we? We'll drive down and get on the tunnel. What a shambles.
Can you pay for us to come on Euros though?
So if that happens, I don't blame West Warriors for switching their game. Right? I can understand that makes complete sense. And York Acorn and West Hill, and not all these amateur teams. I can fully understand. Well done Siddle last year for playing Wakefield on their ground. But
Siddle played Toronto, didn't they? They've got a facility that you can take a gate. That's important.
That's
because you can't share a gate unless you can take a gate.
Well, there weren't many coming from Toronto, were there? To let's
from
be
Manchester.
honest.
And there were quite a few interested spectators to see what Toronto would look like and be there for an historic occasion.
But you can't have. Well, we've drawn the championship teams at home, so they get a home tie, and then actually we're going to switch it. No. Can't have everything your own. Everyone in rugby league wants everything their own way. This is the problem, and you can't have it. Just deciding
again, we're scrabbling around with limited resource.
This is my candidacy for the Frank Slevin's job. Just going, no, you can't have anything.
Oh yes, that's your next job. We've decided.
Yeah.
Chair of Rugby League Commercial. Yeah. You'd be ideal.
I'm not. Yeah. Okay.
No. Summer. It's not going till the summer.
Yeah.
Got time. So the housing market busy in the summer though. It's not the busy time.
Busy all year round, of course.
Well,
I'm not sure what we're trying to do with the Challenge Cup. Really, that's what I'm struggling with. What I'm really struggling with was why we've ended up with the system we've now got, which
to give money to championship clubs.
I get that, but then, as you said, we end up in the situation we've got. I just think is a farce.
I think there's another issue, and that is we're not addressing what the issue of the Challenge Cup is, and we've said it before that it is now only ever going to be contested by and won by Super League teams, and the 1895 Cup is a fantastic opportunity for historic clubs to get to Wembley when they otherwise wouldn't. So if I'm going to pick a club completely at random. If I'm in charge at Hunslet and I'm looking at what can we achieve, it's let's become an established championship club, and at some point, luck of the draw involved, we can take our club to Wembley, because we're never ever going to get to Wembley in the Challenge Cup. But if that Merkel and Flame can take 2.5, 3, 5,000 people down to Wembley, that's something to really aim for.
Yeah, and I know where you're going with that.
So we've got two
separate them
competitions.
Out, but then look at Oldham playing Wigan as a friendly, and that works because they've not played each other for yonks. Yeah. So that's where I think it does work, and I get the argument of championship clubs at home, but yeah, you can't then have clubs then wanting to switch, but you should try and avoid having an amateur team against a Super League team. I just think it's not. In this day and age, it's not right.
But that's what people wanted. They want everyone in round one. But now we've got that. Why should we not want that?
I'm also not convinced about the timing of this round. The week before Super League, I just think that's distracting. For me, that's distracting from the main competition, which should all be geared towards the launch. And yet we're talking Challenge Cup the week before.
And the possibility of a shock where a Super League team could get beaten.
Yeah, I just don't think it's the right way.
We've already slightly undermined the launch of Super League with the Salford situation, which is nobody's fault, other than the fact that I went to the Championship and League One launch on Thursday.
What were the main headlines coming out of the Championship and League One? Was it Hunslet are going to do well and Keithley are confident?
That room is full of some really great people, some people that keep this game alive in places where it's nothing to do with the money, it's to do with the passion, where there's some real characters who, Sean Long's in there coaching Oldham, Paul Wood's in there coaching Swinton. Wherever you look, there's people that you want to interview because they're great people. And Mark Applegarth, they've got stories to tell, and we went to tell those stories. And for whatever reason, it was decided that there would be an all-in with Tony Sutton. And the first question was about Salford, and the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth. And then there were some questions about the Ashes. When's that going to happen? And then there were some questions about the disciplinary.
You mean I don't know how Oldham are going to do?
In a minute.
You don't know Oldham are not. You're not going to ask me about Swinton.
The problem is that you're undermining your own launch.
But was that? Yeah. Well, was that done at the end or the start or what? I suppose.
But
all the conversation
nobody's
comes
really
out of
filing
that.
live copy.
No.
It's you're getting your features to write in the lead up to the Championship and League One, but the headlines you're getting on the day. You can still write the Championship and League One, but it would have been lovely to focus just on that. And sometimes that's where.
But I guess that's inevitable, isn't it? It doesn't really matter. There'll always be other headlines to be written.
Or just don't have it. I mean, we're having our own Super League launch, so don't have an interview with.
Yeah, so you don't allow it.
Tony spoke.
Yeah.
Said what a great competition it was.
Oh, you have a separate event.
We can report him saying that. Derek Beaumont spoke, saying how much he valued the Championship because it wasn't that long ago that they'd been in it, and they still thought that some of the most competitive games are in that. They're great lines, and none of them got told.
But the RFL, the Rugby League Commercial have got media people in there, experienced media people in there.
And I get that if you've got him there, it's a good idea to use him. But I just think. The time to use him would have been next week. Just focus on the characters that were in the room.
Yeah, it's not really the time to speak to him, is it? Because there's nothing. He's not going to say, "Oh, chances it's a vibrant competition." I mean, we haven't got a TV reading because no one actually wants it. But
and the other thing is that he didn't say anything about Salford. He didn't say anything about the disciplinary. He didn't say anything about the Ashes because he didn't have anything to say. So the reports were, "There's nothing to say."
Nothing's happening. Nothing happens at launch.
We have a contingency plan for Salford, but we're not telling you what it is.
So you mean next week when we go to the secret location where the Super League launches?
Why is it secret?
Because I don't know if we're supposed to tell people. So I'm going to tell them. And we go to Paul Wellens. Paul, brand new Super League season, exciting, are you? Were you playing West Hull at the weekend? How's that going to go? That's that kind of thing. That's the first time I could remember.
The disciplinary
Don't ask me.
Has it changed again? Has Sam Burgess mode
idea.
yet? What's going on?
Right. Well, that was a good discussion.
That's good.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
The
You will know more about it than I will.
Is it a points-based system like Australian immigration?
Yeah, the issue appears to be the carryover, whether it should be or it shouldn't, or whether if you bring in a new system, the slate should be wiped clean, because clearly some players who had poor disciplinary last year are in danger for blowing their nose in the wrong place on the field, getting a 5-match ban.
Fair enough.
But it all seems to have leaked out almost by accident. It's like, again, if you were involved in the officiating department, would you not want people to know in a public sphere in advance before?
I'm sure they would. I mean, it will be nothing to do with match officials department at all. It'll be to do with legal and operations. And as I understand it, Robert Hicks is still suspended, unless you know anything different.
About that off air. But
so, well, it's in the public domain, isn't it? And
not about whether he was still suspended.
And I don't know is the honest answer, but the last I heard he was. So, effectively at number 2 at the RFL and running that section of the game, you know, he's a big person to be absent to make decisions like that. No, he's not the only person there, is he? Paul Cullen runs the match review panel. He's heavily involved in that process. My personal opinion, and it is my personal opinion, is I think you should carry over from the previous year.
Well, if you're going to court and you're sentenced, your previous record is taken into account.
And okay, they just say, okay, we'll can the new system. We'll just go back to what we were, and it was just as it was. So you'll still carry your disciplinary record forward. Just because you change the system, for me, doesn't mean everybody starts with a clean slate. And inevitably, as a coach, as Sam Burgess, I believe, has said, if you've got a player that's been banned quite a lot, it clearly works in your favour to manipulate headlines. Look, and the RFL
but again, it also detracts from. We're going to Warrington to talk about what kind of season they're going to have. The headlines are, I don't like the disciplinary system.
Yeah, but if you're Sam Burgess, you know that you can get people writing headlines that you want to write. So all you're doing is, you're right. If you don't give him the ammunition.
Yeah.
But I don't know where that comes from. Is that a lack of consultation? I have no idea.
Well, apparently the Laws Committee proposed it, and the Laws Committee is made up of representatives who perhaps should feed back to the clubs. Mm-hmm. Who they fed back to within the clubs, I don't know.
Yeah,
but because now there is another Laws Committee meeting this week, it might change.
What I do know is that, I think...
But it was released by Keithley on their website.
Your mates?
Yeah.
Blaming them?
I have no idea.
Because they had a player banned under the new system, and
they've put a video up today. Yeah.
And that's how
that's fair
everybody
enough.
got. Yeah, but that isn't the way we should be finding about.
Is that where it came about?
Apparently, it is.
Well, it's funny that because I saw that clip on social media at the time, and I thought, oh, what's all this about this points-based system? So maybe you're right that they let the cat out of the bag, and it was still going.
No reason why they shouldn't.
It was still going.
Don't know.
Well, you might be wrong there.
Because
if it was still undergoing consultation.
But if he's been sentenced under that, it clearly exists. It's been implemented.
True. Yeah, true. Fair play.
Not embargoed till.
I don't know what he got actually. That chap. Did he get
4 matches?
I don't know.
Was it Brad England? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it collided with the referee. Yeah, and I'd seen it, but I don't know. The honest answer is I don't know. You would expect that there's a consultation process having gone on in the off season with all clubs. They'll have all inputted into that, and they'll have all said yay or nay, and then the RFL would have made a decision. But I don't know where they got to in that decision-making process as to whether they'd announced it or not. But you're right, if they're charging players under a new system, it should be announced in advance of that.
But also, it's the Wheelchair Challenge Cup.
The secret draw.
The draw was made in secret.
This programme, which isn't allowed to do draws,
but with access to things like,
the internet,
the YouTube,
and our league,
TikTok,
just being relaunched.
Why on earth would you have any draw in secret? And the fact is that Challenge Cup ends up on a major television channel. So you'd like to be able to think that nothing untoward will have happened, and it would have taken literally a minute and a half to do the draw.
Well, they had that big thing last week with Danica and Fred. They were there on the telly.
Why would you do it in secret?
I don't know. Well, no one could probably answer that. I don't even think the RFL could answer that one, because that literally costs nothing and generates free publicity.
We've done a European draw on here.
Could have got Tony Sutton's phone out.
See, they'll let anybody do it.
Oh yeah. That's the European Federation. They trust us.
I don't know.
And they don't even really exist anymore.
No, actually,
I'm not here. It's 2 years since I left the RFL, and I'm not here to answer on their behalf. But I think what you struggle with as an outsider, which I very much am now, you struggle to try and answer some of the questions, don't you?
I think we talked about it last week on our Zoom podcast, that it's about impression, and sometimes you have to take responsibility for how people on the outside view you. And if you want to go and get a major sponsor or a broadcast partner, or explain to people who don't normally follow rugby league what are the values of your sport, but you're often shooting yourself in the foot from how you look, that's something that we have control over. I get that, and I get that a lot of the people that are working within the governing body are doing so under enormous pressure because of the jobs that they're being asked to do, and are really good, well-meaning people, and wouldn't want this to be the case. But sometimes we have to take responsibility for
I think you make a fair point.
How we're perceived.
I suspect a lot of it comes down to lack of resourcing, and people who are overworked and don't have enough time to do what they're asked to do.
Or think of the implications of saying, right, that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
Because there isn't enough checks and balances, because there aren't enough people there.
No, and that's probably the harsh reality. But it doesn't make it any worse or any less sad, really.
Who plays who in the Wheelchair Challenge Cup?
Well, again, there were two versions of that. But
it's like Bob Monkhouse all over again. Add to stories. No.
But again, the draw that they did, which again I think the excitement of a draw is each round you have another draw, is they drew it right to the final. So everybody knows who they're playing, either or through the preliminary rounds, the quarterfinals, the semi-finals.
Why have they done that?
Why would you do that? The other thing that I'd like to put on record, I have an objection.
Are you not involved in wheelchair rugby league in some form or another?
I knew nothing about it. No. Only a strategy group.
Right, okay.
Just biscuits.
Why?
When
it comes to draws, be it Challenge Cup, wheelchair, whoever, do we have to know the number of the balls in advance? Because the joy of a draw is working out who you're going to get.
Oh, that's what they always do in the draw. Here's the numbers.
Yeah,
but nobody ever knows the numbers, so they still wait.
I'm old, right? And I used to love the FA Cup draw on Radio 2.
Sir Bert Millichip's velvet bag.
From Lytham St Anne's, where the first you knew of the balls coming out was the number, and then somebody said the name of the team, and you spent time trying to work out if it's alphabetical. Roughly, where's my team going to be?
I'm old enough to remember Radio Leeds doing that for Rugby League.
Absolutely. I think the joy of a draw is not knowing who you're going to get, and that instant reaction when you go, oh, it's...
Yeah. Too many was. This is the problem. Too many was. There's only... How many L's are there? Leeds, Lee, that's it. Were.
Where does the H's... Where does Huddersfield stop and Lee begin?
Yeah, where does St Helens are they?
But the joy of a draw was literally, it was a draw.
But they took the draw away from us by doing it in secret.
If you're looking for Wigan, their number,
I don't know. I'm not bothered about that. Let's just have it on. If it's a wheelchair or whatever draw, let's just have it on
4020 live. Yeah. We're on YouTube. Everyone can watch us all over the world, even in North Korea, possibly. Are there any changes to the laws this year? Because I've not seen any emails.
Yes,
there are.
There's
Because usually we get the email where it tells us all the people
I'm
on the
looking at
laws.
you, Phil, for
Oh,
the
no,
answers.
you
'Cause
haven't got the email, I haven't got the
No.
email, we don't know.
Offside from a downtown, if you're not interfering with play now, you're not offside.
yeah, so they've adopted the NRL interpretation of offside. So
you can stand in front of the kicker, and as long as you don't get involved in the play,
Then it doesn't
whether you're
matter.
10 metres or not,
correct.
it won't matter.
So it's now an interpretation of whether you're active or passive.
Yes.
As opposed to a black and white decision as to whether you're within 10 metres of somebody catching a ball. So I think it comes back to a decision. There was a decision last year, and I don't know why it created
try
furore.
was disallowed, wasn't it?
Yeah,
when
but
somebody
we've had this
wasn't.
for decades. Having said all that, I do think that it's the right change. Now we have video referees at every game, on certainly in Super League, obviously. So it now is in line with the NRL. But what it does do, if people think this is going to get rid of controversy, it won't. It potentially creates more because it's down to interpretation as to whether a player is active or passive.
The other one is...
Surely they're all active because they're all on the pitch. And if they're not, then they shouldn't be on the pitch.
Well, there'll be indicators that the
Right.
referees will be looking at, but this is what you'll now get in commentary. You'll say, "Well, he looks like he's active, and he's only a few meters away." But if there's 4 players, for example, and they're all onside, and one player is offside, but the same distance away, is he considered to be active? Interpretation.
Is that it? Is that the...
No, the other one is...
Oh, no.
If there's the ball doesn't go 10 metres from a dropout,
Yeah.
it's no longer a penalty. It's a tap.
Right.
So that's going to mean more short dropouts because you're not going to be conceding
Not as
points.
big of a risk, yeah.
It's funny they brought this in after Rowan Smith.
was right
Yeah.
after all.
Well, that happened in the Workington Royal Navy game because of the wind. It didn't go 10 metres, but then they knocked it on anyway, so it was all right. Or maybe it did go 10 metres, but then they knocked it on. They all knocked it on, it was a bit... The weather conditions weren't great. They should have played the NFL style, just push it. You can't push a man, can you? You can't do the tush push. This is an NFL term. Tush push.
Okay.
It's genuine. It's
I
genuine.
wondered where you were headed.
We thought you'd
No,
like that.
no, it's a genuine thing. You can't do that in rugby league.
No.
You can't put a bank of players in
You
front
can't
of
jump
front
over
of
the play. Can you jump
and
over
then
the play of the
push
ball?
your man through.
Can you jump over the play of the ball
okay.
and launch yourself at the dummy half? Can you do that?
Captain's Challenge is the other one, obviously.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great.
Which
Yeah.
is the big one.
Yeah.
That's the big one, really.
Have Leeds
isn't it?
decided who's going to do it yet? Because they've got 2 captains.
I don't think they're the only club that'll have 2 captains.
No, leadership groups and all this nonsense. So we
It
captain.
doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, my prediction is it will cause a bit of consternation amongst people, I think, for the first few weeks, because you'll probably get teams putting captain's challenges in when they probably shouldn't do. And I
Prop
think,
forwards demanding
It's
them,
furious.
wingers being ignored.
yeah, and I think the other thing is on games where there are fewer cameras, you are probably likely to end up with a number of decisions which are haven't been able to be determined, so they keep the
Keep
challenge.
the challenge, like in the
So
cricket.
yeah, so you'll end up with quite a few challenges in games like that if it's
Which will prolong the game.
yeah, which if it's not determined, and also it'll create more talking points than it otherwise does because
Perfect.
the main talking points for me on the captain's challenges are always around whether a ball is lost or whether it's stolen, and they're difficult decisions. So it will be. Yeah, again, if people think this is the answer
It's
to
the
everybody's
panacea.
prayers, yeah, it will just create more talking points down the local pub or on Twitter.
Or on podcasts, which is perfect because we always need more things to talk about. There's something else that I was going to mention about laws that was
Green
mentioned.
card as well. That's going
Yes,
back.
it's now
going
not
back
just,
to what it was
yeah.
in 23.
It can affect both the attacking and the defence.
And that's one of those classic law changes that was changed by a laws committee that's made up of people that don't understand the implication of a law change.
So that's your job again.
Well, it only has a small representation of match officials on there, and it has so many representations from all sectors of the game.
The
but
telly.
people don't understand
they
the
don't then tell
implications.
their club representatives what they
Yeah,
decide.
it was always going to happen. I said this time last year what would happen last year, and it did. So hopefully that will settle that issue down next year. It should do.
I'm sure I read something that was going to happen, but I can't remember what it was now. I'm just because obviously I didn't read the email, so I don't know what it was. What would they have changed that I would have thought? Here's an interesting thing to talk about.
Well, I
Tara
can't
Jones,
remember.
she's an interesting thing to talk about. Pleased that she's been included in the full-time squad.
Yeah, it'll be interesting times for Tara. Obviously now retired from playing,
Which is a big decision because she was still at the top of her game.
She is. I suspect, and I don't know. I've not spoken to her about it, but I suspect that she probably realised that her England career may have come to an end. with the change in coach. I'm not sure. And at some point she needs to make a decision. And I don't know how old Tara is actually, but she's still relatively young for a player, I think.
I think late 20s.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how she goes because it's certainly Rugby Union. They've got Premiership refereeing a female Premiership referee, so all eyes will be on Tara to try and emulate that in Super League, really. But she'll have found pre-season tough, I would imagine. So yeah, no, it's good. It's and I'm sure, for the next group of female referees that are coming through, that all eyes are on Tara and want to see her do well, and hopefully she does.
Wikipedia says 28. So
yeah, I thought she would.
And I found the laws, and there's none of that have changed, so I've got no idea what I've made up in my head that's going to change this year, but never mind.
It's those sleeping tablets.
It is. Ian says, having Challenge Cup 6 weeks before the community club season makes it a farce leaving them having them in the cup anyway, which makes it funny because...
I think that's the other issue that's really important, that had the community clubs been playing since August, then their level of fitness would have been obviously would have been significantly higher. Yeah. But they haven't been allowed to have any form of contact or training because we're concerned about head injuries, rightly so. But now we're asking them to play a Super League team with no preparation.
It justifies belief, to be honest.
And it's interesting, and I haven't mentioned it yet, but it's in the current issue of the magazine. Wathbrow pulling out of the Challenge Cup. Yeah. Which I don't think, again, we as a game have made enough of that.
They shouldn't be allowed in for 5 years.
No, the thing about Wathbrow is they are one of the most successful NCL clubs. They're not looking at a potential draw and saying we're not playing in the first round of a match that we couldn't win. The likelihood is they probably could have beaten West Bowling.
Yeah, but why not make that decision? Why not make that decision before your name's been drawn out of the hat?
That's the other side of that coin. Yeah. But the point that they're making about not feeling prepared enough to play potentially Sheffield Eagles at 2 weeks' notice is absolutely
I totally
valid.
I agree.
And if they're a leading club that have a number of teams and a great facility and a great tradition, and they're not prepared to risk their players, then what the hell are we doing playing West Warriors against the Super League team?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you said. I didn't like the timing of their statement, and I think it didn't think it did Wathbrow any favours, personally.
And they were given dispensation to do more training to prepare them, but that's the point they were making was valid.
But these are all things that were entirely predictable when the cup draw was brought forward. This is what I don't understand. So, people wanted it to be brought forward, because people hark back to another era. So it's now being brought forward, and now there's a load of issues. But all the issues that have been brought up were entirely predictable. So, for me, I think the timing of, as I said before, I think the timing the week before for Super League is wrong. And to have them a month apart, I think you can have a slightly more condensed competition, and then you don't have to have it starting so early. But that's my personal opinion. There'll be lots of reasons as to why they've done it, how they've done it. I think this is where people struggle in the game, isn't it? Because there isn't open communication to explain why decisions are made, and so it leaves a void where people fill it with nonsense like this programme.
And the other problem is nobody is sure who is making these decisions. I think we know who is, but it's IMG's fault, and they may have had nothing to do with it. It's the RFL's fault. It might be.
It's by and large the club's fault, I would imagine.
But yeah, it predominantly is.
Yeah, and the RFL are guilty, and always have been, in my view, of not being strong enough with clubs, and being the whipping boys really for decisions that are largely influenced by the clubs.
And it might have been well intentioned to give money to the Championship clubs that they're not now getting from central distribution.
It's going back to Sam Burgess. I mean, I am aware that there was a Super League head coaches meeting planned, I think, late at the end of last season, which didn't happen, and they were all required to attend, and some gave apologies and said they couldn't attend with very short notice, so it didn't happen. And yet you then get coaches then complaining they don't know. So the RFL won't come out and say that, but actually they should come out and say that. Well, hang on a minute, a meeting was arranged on this date, you didn't turn up, or you didn't send somebody else, or you sent apologies, or and this is the reason why that was cancelled. So actually, and I know that might feel like you're airing your dirty laundry in public, but actually that's, for me, the level of transparency you need to have in a sport to actually make some progress, because what all the clubs will continue doing is hiding behind blaming somebody else, because that's what this society is about, really. It's always somebody else's fault.
Playing golf's important. Ruben Amorim, the new Man United manager, I think he's brilliant. because he's come into this job. It's a complete show. And he said, this is the worst Man United team ever. And they might be, they might not be, I don't know. Category, we can't say. And now he's had to apologise for saying that because he's upset the players. It's like, you're crap.
That was like Brian Clough, wasn't it, when he went to Leeds? Well, it's probably true, though.
I know, so he'll get paid off anyway eventually. So. And we're building him a new stadium, in the Osfella. Where's the grand final going to go when they rebuild Old Trafford?
The new Etihad will be finished by then. But also, the new, apparently the owners of the new Everton Stadium are keen to have some rugby league.
Maybe Ken Davey can have it at the Shea.
Definitely got a future Magic weekend there, surely.
Well, I would have said a test match if only we knew we were having any.
The only England game we know about so far this year is England versus Australia in Vegas in 5 weeks' time.
Women's, yeah.
6 weeks' time. Some comments. A big chance of Bradford beating Cass in Cup, says Craig. LG says Bradford will get humbled this year. So a difference of opinion there. If I was handicapping, if someone gave me Cass plus on the handicap, I'd be with Cass. They lost away from the friendly. It doesn't mean anything. Snow will no doubt be forecast in Halifax until Easter, says Paul, so I can see why they would switch to Catalans. Seems fair enough.
What about that story with Huddersfield and
the Shea?
Ken's buying the Shea. He's doing it up. He's putting a new pitch in.
Ken Davey OBE.
He's finishing the building work to turn it into a Super League quality stadium.
Oh, and then he's going
he's
to walk away.
Absolute
Absolute nonsense.
Then he's going to buy. No, they won't buy another stadium.
That's nonsense.
You know about buying and selling things. You wouldn't do that.
Well, developing stadia is fraught with complications, isn't it? How many stadia are built overnight?
But it's
within a couple of years. No, I'm not talking about the Shea.
So once you've done the Shea,
the next one,
why would you need to go somewhere else?
Well, surely they do. For me, for that plan to be true, they should have already identified and owned a site and have planning submitted on a site in Huddersfield. Otherwise, it's a nonsense. And prove for funding for the new stadium. It's just all pie in the sky, is that? How can you have, London and what went on with their IMG score, and then a Super League club wanting to move to another town where there's another Rugby League club and play in their stadium?
We don't want to say it. We can't say the M word, can we? That can't be the Huddersfield, Sheffield, Halifax Blue Sox.
Yeah.
Giant Blue Sox Eagles. What?
I don't know. I'm not opposed to teams playing in the same stadium.
And Ken is deserving of a stadium named after him for everything he's done. But I can't see he'd invest twice. I just don't know why you do that.
He does that with coaches sometimes.
I can see the need to get out of the John Smiths, and I can see the need of the people who own the John Smiths to want to edge them out. I can see it benefiting Huddersfield to play in a smaller capacity stadium, because if you can increase the crowd from where they currently are, and you can fill the Shea, which, what would that hold? Maybe 10,000?
Something like that.
That's a viable commercial stream. But I don't see why you'd ever move back to us. If it works, why would you move back?
They won't, will they? Supposedly they bought the YMCA, didn't he? Why not just develop that? I know it's out of town. Maybe it can't be developed.
It can't. There's a problem with it. Or Fartown.
Is there nowhere in Huddersfield that a stadium can be built?
Fartown.
Oh, dear, I don't want to go there.
There's somewhere on Leeds Road that they were looking at, further up from what used to be ICR. But I think that's where Huddersfield Town train.
Yeah, there's the Huddersfield Leeds Road playing fields that may be there, but
so I think they were looking at further up Leeds Road.
The best location for a stadium for me would be Fringe Town Centre, but there probably aren't the sites that are big enough on the fringe of the town centre.
But then you're pretty close to the John Smiths.
Well, you are on Leeds Road. If you go on Leeds Road, it's just a little bit further along. It's tens of millions of pounds to invest at Halifax, and then probably hundreds of millions of pounds to build a new stadium in Huddersfield. I just don't know where that money comes from.
And I assume he's not going to just say, hey Halifax, have a free stadium now, I've built it for you, because we're probably enough back.
Well, it's owned by the council, isn't it?
Yeah, but they want to get rid. That's part of the problem.
But he's not going to then donate it to
But then the other
Halifax
thing is you've
Halifax.
also got Halifax town to take into account, because it's going to be really hard to have three teams over
on that pitch, which has been a bugger for the last few years.
Over
but is it not
12
about
months.
putting a synthetic pitch down?
Yeah.
No, yeah.
But then
it's the only way you could do it there, because whenever it's wet, it's really boggy, that pitch. So,
but not the synthetic as in Widnes, because that wouldn't allow Halifax to get into the Football League.
Wouldn't it?
No, you have to have a proper pitch. So I can't remember who.
There's now hybrid pitches.
They've
got one at Headingley.
There was a team.
I mean, most pictures like that, like John Smith's is part plastic, part grass, but yeah, it would. Okay. Anyway, you're still talking a lot of money anyway, aren't you? Yeah, to buy the stadium off the council, they're not going to give it away, but yet the council
will
be cash
also
straight.
depend how much he would get from the owners of the John Smiths to terminate the lease. Because I think he's clever enough to get some money out of them and put that into the Shay.
And if I'm also building a stadium in Huddersfield, do I need something else on the site to enable that, or?
But I don't know on the Kirklees Stadium. The Kirklees Stadium is owned by, or John Smith Stadium is owned by the council.
No,
I believe,
it's a management group.
Kirklees Stadium Development Limited, I think.
Part owned by part the council, part the football.
That's
club,
right. You're
part
right. Yeah, it's tripartite.
And I think the tripartite has changed. That the council were the major holders, and I think it's now Huddersfield Town under their American owners. And I think Ken now has a much lesser share. But to give that up to enable Huddersfield Town, there would have to be some money transfer that would probably pay for a lot of the work at the Shay.
Thanks, Paul. Sutton United were the team who they had a plastic pitch and they had to take it out to put a grass one in to go back into the.
Because I know they were looking at developing the area behind. I don't know which stand it is at Huddersfield, but as you come out of the main stand, that one to the right, that area behind there, and putting a major commercial development there, but that never got off the ground.
They were going to do that at Salford, weren't they? Put a major commercial in it. There's going to be a golf
course built on Aldi.
And a big sign next to the motorway that's going to earn billions of pounds.
Dr. Marwan wanted a golf
I don't know. I think it's one thing moving them on a temporary basis, but you'd want to know what the plan is and where's the money coming from. What's the feasibility of getting planning for a new stadium? I don't know. It just.
Well, you know these things.
Yeah, and they're not easy to solve. They're not easy to solve and don't take and take a long time to often fix. So I can't see if they do move, it could be 10 years before they move to another stadium.
The difference between Huddersfield and Salford is Huddersfield have got someone with money behind them, willing to put it in every year, because neither team can seemingly build crowds, despite the fact that they have had moderate success.
And again, not knowing all the intimate details of why Salford are in the predicament that they're in, but the deal that they signed in their desperation to leave the Willows, or desperate need to leave the Willows, I think he was on the verge of not being condemned, but there was so much work that needed doing on it that it just wasn't viable to stay there and they needed to get out. So the deal that they signed to move to the SCS, as it now is called this week.
The sofa?
Yeah. Like I say, yeah, the Sofa Stadium. Yeah.
Was
Northern Upholstery Stadium.
So restrictive that's been part of the problem, that they need to get these, handcuffs broken to move forward in, and they've lost a lot of their traditional crowd that would have gone to the Willows. Their crowds were good towards the end of last season when they had that run through to the playoffs, but they don't have a huge amount of season ticket holders.
Yeah, but so if Huddersfield, part of the Huddersfield argument is they don't get good crowds. Well, why would they get any better crowds in? Appreciate it would look better in a smaller stadium,
and the atmosphere is better. And I think
you're still playing in Halifax.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like the answer to me.
Mark Sneed's not got an agent. He's a clever boy, isn't he?
So does he look after his own?
This is words said by Richie Myler, Hull FC's overlord of everything, talking to Steve Mascon, overlord of Patreon today. Mark's a different one, because Mark doesn't have an agent. Us as a club can't speak to Mark directly. I've had many conversations with Paul King over players and we said we would be interested. That's as far as we got with Mark. So no one can talk to Mark Sneed. There's no intermediary. Because we all know, because we're not thick, that players' agents may offer their clients around when the going gets tough or whatever. But Mark Sneed is stuck there, he can't move, because Salford aren't selling anyone, despite the fact they've been told to sell players apparently.
That's the only bit I don't understand about this Salford thing. That in terms of press releases, the one that we saw was the RFL had mandated Salford to start selling players because they were under extra special super duper measures and they'd been in, and the condition for granting them their £500,000 advance on their television monies was they had to shed £800,000 of player cost.
So you at least need a winger now. You've got to be on the phone and sign a winger from Salford.
Nanny McDonald.
Is he? Homesick.
But then everything now apparently it's Salford are deciding when the deadline is that they're going to sell players or not. And I'm
Well,
told,
investment's just around the corner.
Well, I'm told that the flashpoint will be this Thursday or Friday when wages are due, and if there isn't a takeover and if the wages aren't paid, then players will be sold.
So I expect to see tweets on Thursday saying major update in Salford story or major update due in Salford.
But the problem is that you mention one thing, you put out a statement saying we have mandated Salford to sell players, and then 3 weeks down the line, Salford are still saying no, we'll decide when we're selling players, and it's like, who is actually in charge of this situation?
I don't understand the Salford situation really. I've not followed that closely enough, but I have seen people being critical of the RFL, and the only thing I would say on that, it seems to me that it's a separate. They're all independent companies.
Mm.
They're all given a sum of money to spend. It's up to
But
that club
if
really
you
in some
are
ways to spend.
advancing monies to them and
That's
conditions
different.
are attached to it,
Agreed.
and those conditions just keep being put back and back and back, what does that say about
Well, is it
who
like-
is in charge of this situation?
But
I mean,
what's the
clearly they are-
alternative? You see, the club goes under, so or they start selling players.
Well, there's two
Stop it
alternatives.
from-
One is they start selling players, which again,
That's a lot of players to
potential-
sell.
we reckon 4, but the 4 best players, which potentially makes them uncompetitive again before the season kicks off, which changes the dynamic of what you're promoting when the season launch comes around. This is a team that got to the playoffs. They've
But
also
got to the playoffs with money they don't have, apparently.
they've also got to recruit players to fill the gaps of the ones that have gone. Which again, it isn't particularly fair on Paul Rowley that 4 players turn up and he hasn't had all pre-season. He goes, right, you're all in my team because you're replacing the best.
Like our
Right,
the Mike
Ryan
Eccles
Hampshire.
London team.
Yeah, but I mean, Paul
And
Paul
he's
must know
great.
what's going on behind the scenes.
But I'm just saying it's
It's his last year as head coach, isn't he? He's going to be
director of rugby.
director of rugby next year.
But
He'll be holding the purse strings.
the other option, Salford fans turn off now,
Phil, you've been warned.
is proposed by Paul Cook in the magazine. So I'm absolving myself of all responsibility, saying that they could be in the Championship and rebuild in the Championship
What,
because
this year or
Yeah.
next year?
No, this year. And that the teams who have been in that situation, admittedly by relegation rather than financial issue, predominantly Hull KR, Lee, Wakefield, have found a way of coming back stronger. They don't have to disappear. That the teams in the Championship would welcome Salford coming in, that their team would be competitive even if they'd lost 4 or 5 of their best players. The likelihood is that whilst there would be pain for the crowd in the short term, the crowd figure overall wouldn't necessarily lessen by that much. And then you get the option of either going with 11 teams in Super League and having a bye week, or you look at, under the IMG ratings, who is the next team that would be eligible to play in Super League?
Yeah, but they're not
Who's
likely
that?
to be any
To
stronger.
lose.
So we've got to have 2 flights to France. We're
Well,
not
I'm
going to
just
France,
saying,
Phil. We can't
I'm-
afford it.
Again, the word on a street, which
Quality Street.
was that Bradford had been approached to fill the gap.
Oh, come off it.
I'll quit. I'll quit.
Who's on this
I'll quit.
podcast?
I'll quit. I will quit.
Whose Twitter have you been reading?
I'll quit.
No, not a chance.
No, but you've left it so late now that you haven't got any room to manoeuvre.
Don't make me swear. Don't make me
Whatever
swear
the
on podcast.
contingency plan is by the RFL, and the one thing Tony Sutton says, I'm telling you nothing, but there is a contingency plan. We are aware of everything that's happening. The contingency can only be Salford survive in some form, Salford move out of the firing line but survive, somebody else comes in to replace them, or we go with an 11-team league. I can't see too many other contingency plans.
No, but that's probably it.
We'll stick Gull in, they beat London.
But who knows what will happen? I'd be surprised if Salford won't drop out of Super League in my opinion, and they'll sell a few players and they'll carry on and probably limp through the season a bit.
I've been a Salford fan since 1978, says Phil. But we really shouldn't be in Super League. No money and not enough fans. Paul says, just let Huddersfield move into Dewsbury for a couple of seasons. It worked for Bradford, who we were always told have far more support. Andy says the solution for Huddersfield is easy. They go to Don Valley and become Sheffield again, like when they were successful. Lol. Ian says, I definitely think Bradford should replace Salford. Seriously, if that happened,
I'm not saying anything other than that's, I believe, an option that has been looked at with clubs that were in readiness.
Who were next with IMG though? Toulouse and then.
It wasn't Bradford.
No, exactly. So that is not going to happen.
But what is the point of having an IMG grading if you don't use that grading to then?
Oh, yeah, exactly. If you bring somebody in, it has to be the next one. The next
and if
cab
it
off
is
the
Toulouse
rank.
and that brings too many other logistical issues, then you have to go with 11 clubs, don't you? You don't promote somebody
Correct.
above.
You can't go then and below. It won't happen in my view. I think they'll just have to sell a few players if they don't get this takeover. But takeovers don't happen quickly. You know.
Where from that bloke who's going to buy them last year?
Well, who inherits the debt? They've got to pay off that debt.
Well, a lot of them.
They're still required to sell players.
There are two major creditors for the £5 million that they're trying to find. One is the council, which obviously part of the negotiations about whatever the lease might be on the new stadium could involve the council writing off some of that debt because they would have been spending equal, if not more, on maintaining the stadium. Yeah. So the other is the Wilkinson family, who were involved in moving them from the Willows to...
that's years ago there.
And Paul King, who was underwritten a lot of the debt.
You would have thought the Wilkinson stuff would have come under the last CVA or whatever, wouldn't you? Because that would have been part of that historic debt when Dr. Kukash.
Unless it was passed on to...
Which is daft, isn't it?
And didn't Paul put his house up against...
Yeah. So again, he'd need to be freed of all guarantees, and I think I don't know whether he has physically loaned money or his house is just the guarantee for the money that has been loaned.
But
so again, he'd have to be released from all of that.
And then they have to pass the fit and proper test first.
Well, the other thing,
because we know how well that's gone down at Bradford.
The other thing is you've got to know who the owners are, because when consortia are involved,
shadowy owners.
Yeah. You've got to know who the actual owners are.
Who did own Bradford Bulls? Who owns Bradford Bulls? Do we know who owns Bradford Bulls?
Nigel Wood. Oh, he's a major shareholder.
I do like how we've got rid of Salford now. Like, they're out. Everyone you chiefs are saying we're going to get Toulouse in or whatever. We got rid of Salford now. So apologies to all the Salford fans. You're out now. So
we didn't suggest that was a good idea.
No.
We just said it was an option. Oh, no. Right. So do you want to know the who was next on the IMG rankings?
Oh, you've got the IMG. I thought you got some embargoed information come through.
I wish.
Welcome to the IMG rankings. Y11 Phil says, Andy, it didn't happen when Toronto were dismissed because of financial reasons. League were promoted with the help of Wigan. Phil's got the IMG ranking.
Well, I'm trying to get them for the right year. It says 2025. It's clearly not.
No.
Here we are. Rankings, every IMG club.
St Helens won, of course. They won the IMG trophy.
Yeah.
Well done, St Helens.
So,
Bob and Top Busto. In one.
In 13th place were Toulouse.
Yeah. Right, so yeah.
In 14th place were London.
Who got beat by goal.
In 15th place were York.
Really? Right, York.
Wow. And Bradford was 16th.
Right. No chance.
Yeah.
No, it's none of that. They won't be replacing a team. I think so.
Just so they come out a thing in the paper saying, "Oh, Bradford are back again." Can you remember that after the Challenge Cup?
The most likely scenario, in my opinion, is they sell players. They force sell players. They might get taken over. But why haven't they so far? It'll take it a while.
This is the problem. We learned yesterday in the NFL after the tush push thing. Right, this is genuine. The bloke from Washington, I can't remember his name. Lavu, was it Lavu or something?
Yeah.
Twice he's at the line of scrimmage, jumps over his own man to get to the other bloke to try and stop him getting the ball. But he's done it offside. He's done it too early twice, so he gets penalised. Referee comes out and says, "We've got the discretion if we think you're doing it on purpose, because they're literally an inch away from the line. We can give a penalty score." They could give a penalty. No one's ever heard of a penalty touchdown before. They've just made it up in the NFL. now we're here. You just got to make some rules up. Alfred's got to say to Salford, look, you're bringing the game into disrepute now because we've told you to do this. You've not done this. You've shown there must be clubs out there who want to sign some of those players.
Other side of the Salford coin.
Definitely.
And whilst we say, and I stand by forever, that don't read anything into pre-season games.
Correct.
What an astonishing performance from Salford at St Helens at the weekend
I don't even know the score.
40 points to 14 or something.
To
Salford. But Salford were, I think, 30-0 up. So it's Morgan Knowles' testimonial. Salford going through all of the issues that they've gone through. Players that you would have every right to think, I need to save myself because I might be sold off or moving on.
play for a
40
contract
points to
elsewhere.
12, there you go.
What was the Saints team like then?
They both started with full-strength teams.
Right.
So I just think that those Salford players deserve, and their coach as well, deserve the most enormous amount of credit. And that people who particularly are being linked as the 4 or 5 who would be sold, not least Mark Sneed and Callum Watkins, who are the two that epitomise everything Salford is about. You know, Callum is from the area. To go out and play like that, I think that's astounding, and they deserve an enormous amount of kudos for that.
And I just hope they can keep the players together, and it does get taken over, because the Super League needs a team that is not a traditional team that's won everything since the start of Super League to be competing with others.
And they got to a cup final and a grand
Absolutely.
final.
As Chris says, it's the benefit of a pre-season trip to Portugal. The optics of which, again, I don't know. Leeds haven't gone. Have Leeds gone anywhere, Sonny? No.
They're not going.
No. Cast did, I think. I thought, wait if we were on the big
Cast
one.
went to Valencia for the big
Oh,
game
yeah, for the big game,
against
Valencia Hurricanes, yeah. As opposed to the sad news that New York Rugby League is defunct. It's over.
Now.
It's over. You can still buy shirts though on Steve Mascord's website. So head there right now.
It might be like the penny black though. There could be more valuable. The fact that you can have a shirt from a team that never
existed. Like the excuse me, currently on Pylons, yeah. Saints weren't full strength at any point, says Ian.
There were a lot of full strength.
8 first teamers absent, just for the record. Connie Hurrell was playing. He's the big team mascot. He was there at
It
the
was deemed.
In fact, talking of Connie Hurrell,
Connie Hurrell, yeah. Oh, mate, the hair.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a little bit,
Have you seen
reminiscent of it. Yeah, people can't
you
see that at home.
You haven't seen him, have you?
No.
Since,
I could get on the team, couldn't I?
what do you reckon?
If Salford are desperate for players.
Yeah.
What's it officially called? Is it a man bun? Or?
No, it's just a ponytail because my hair's a mess. So it's in that annoying stage in a minute, but.
So trained.
Like
Connie.
Connie.
I could put it on the top.
I'm just envious because I can't do it.
Well, I need some. What I need is some scrunchies, like what the women players wear.
Is it a man bun?
No, because that'd be on the top, like Josh Charnley had. So if anyone can make me some scrunchies, I'll wear them on the programme. I don't care.
People won't be able to see it.
Well, no, I'll sit like this for the whole, turn around for the whole programme. Just back of my head, improvement.
This is
and all
why
that.
we're
best
award
angle.
nominated.
Award nominated. When we win that award this week,
We're not going to win that.
we're not going to win that award this week, are we? Now? We're up against like James Haskell and
Proper
stuff.
podcasts.
Well, Rugby Union. James Haskell and all those other Rugby Union people that are going to be on TNT in the future. I tell you what, it's well worth avoiding the BBC this week because it's full on propaganda mode. You thought Donald Trump and Elon Musk were bad. Just wait for their talking about the Rugby Union Six Nations. Deary me.
Especially if it's the last time they have it.
Oh, God.
I've missed this story. Why is the BBC not?
Well, TNT are bidding for it, apparently.
Oh, are they, right?
So,
I saw a trailer on ITV for Six Nations.
Oh, they've got it.
Well, BBC
it
and ITV's coverage would go to TNT.
Oh, okay.
Oh, God, what a shame. What are they going to show instead? More rowing or something.
The qualifiers for the university boat race.
Yeah. Barnsley knocked out again. So, the Women's Super League last night was Man United versus Brighton, 6:30 kickoff or whatever. In the old Super League slot the old Big League slot from the early 90s. That's a family sport. They always say, oh, there's loads of kids there and they make loads of noise and stuff. We're still playing 6:30 that's a school night.
Were there a lot of Brighton kids?
I didn't see many Brighton. I can't imagine there were many Brighton fans there, but.
What was the story with Hull KR playing York in the Netherlands?
Spreading their brand.
Orange shirts.
Saw the orange shirts, yeah.
I think the plan is to.
But why not send a team that's capable of beating York?
Well, I think part of that was they are going to be playing York next week anyway.
If they beat Keighley, because we don't want to write Keighley off.
No,
we don't want to upset Keighley.
Would never do that.
We like Keighley.
It's a bit ducks and drakes with Willie Peters this time of year as well. I think, again, if you're going to make a big deal about how important this is, you do probably need to put more than 2 first-team players in your team. But I mean, the principle is fine. Developing the game in another country, looking for talent over there, being able to.
Is it part of a wider programme about?
And apparently, their
school stuff,
foundation
didn't they?
did a lot of work in schools, and it's a 5-year deal. I think a bit like Vegas. So if they go next year and we perhaps move the Challenge Cup back, he might send a full choice team.
Has anything else happened this week? Terry Palmer looks a bit like Keir Starmer there, doesn't he? It's a bit concerning. Terry Palmer's not running the country, is he? There's no leopards at 10 Downing Street. Nothing else has happened, has it, I think? There's lots of signings in women's rugby league that I keep missing out on, but Wigan have signed a player from Papua New Guinea. So that is exciting.
Wigan
found the Papua New Guinean player that played at Bradford, yeah.
He's in Papua New Guinea.
Probably.
Anything else happened? No. We are at that kind of. I mean, I could go through the results in the Challenge Cup, but you can see them on the internet anyway.
Tell you what, you've talked about Goal in London already, I suppose.
We haven't, have we?
Fair play to Goal.
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't see any of it. I've seen the intercept
really
try.
Game. I mean, London were 10-0 up early on. But there was more experience in the Goal team than there was the London team.
Yeah, I've seen some of the names. What was it?
Thomas Minns got a fantastic try. Brett Ferris was captain. Jamie Shaw was at fullback.
Andy Ellis
Andy Ellis made a real difference. Got man of the match.
40.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's the bit that London didn't have. So again, full congratulations to Goal. But actually, they had a more experienced team out than London, whose entire three-quarter division were trialists.
We were asked what is the future, what is a good season for London this season. I guess they're having to completely rebuild again, aren't
New investors. That's the most important.
Is Mr. Hetherington still on the phone to whoever's sorting it out? Brisbane, who denied it now, haven't they? Brisbane?
Yeah. He never actually said it was Brisbane. He said
he
was trying to help.
So people added 2 and 2?
No, that came from Australia. There was a reporter in Australia that said. But they're not far off, apparently, signing an investment deal. Which then,
but that comes back to the IMG, doesn't it? Because of IMG, you're more likely to invest in a club.
Yes. Well, and the other thing about London when they last got promoted was it was their really clever recruitment mid-season from France.
From France, yeah.
When they got people like Dean Farre and Corey Norman. If they get investment now, yes, they'll be young, inexperienced, and perhaps a little bit naive team. Although the defensive structures were pretty good for a team that had a predominance of trialists in it. And if you can add with the money that you get, you're going to get sort of nowish mid-season. You then become more of a threat. So I think the investors are the key thing, because from that they can do some more high-profile recruitment, and they can probably have a bit more time to develop an academy. More of an in-house pathway structure, which is probably what's lacking at the moment. Foundation's quite strong, and bringing all that in, under some genuine investment will constitute success.
We started early on the crowds not being given, so that's always good. But 849 at Barrow against Crossfields. Where's Crossfields?
Warrington.
Yeah. So that's a bit of that's not much of a trip, is it? But still. Dewsbury got 1,252. Dewsbury Moor, that is,
played at Batley.
Oh, pleasant.
People say, why didn't they play Dewsbury? Do they realise how close Dewsbury and Batley are? Because there's no.
I don't think they wanted.
You go down the street and it's
I did
there.
see the statement by Dewsbury, which was a bit pointed actually. It felt like we've offered them, but they don't want to play here, so they're playing at Batley.
I'm sure I read somewhere Dewsbury Moor's closer to Mount Pleasant than it is to whatever Ram Stadium's called.
Probably not much in it actually.
I mean, Dewsbury
Ram Stadium is actually closer to Mount
Pleasant than Batley. Halifax got 743 against Tatawaith. Would Tatawaith bring more than Catalans? That's the big question.
I was just thinking that.
What if Tatawaith had played Catalans in the next round? There's no crowd at Loch Lane, but I don't know if they can have one. London didn't give a crowd out. Oldham got 1,032 against Rochdale Mayfield, so that's all right for a game they were expected to win and won comfortably. Sheffield got 518 against West Bowling, but we don't know how many people went home because they kicked off late because they got out of date drugs.
Prescription drugs.
Drugs out of date in Sheffield. I mean, you make your own comments about Attercliffe yourself. I'm not doing them. Whitehaven, 908 against Swinton. Other games.
I had to break the news to Mr. Calner gently earlier today that his team was out.
No Wembley trip in that competition because who they've got in the 1895 Mega AB Sundex Mega Cup?
Rochdale or Cornwall?
Oh, right.
What I didn't understand about that, and again because I'm a bit out of touch, and not a lot of touch actually. Why some teams was it like Dewsbury against Workington or something, and then others were somebody against A or B? Why is it that? Is that because there's
Preliminary round draw.
Oh, okay, I see. Why have we ended up with that? Is there an odd number of teams or something?
Toulouse don't play it, do they? And but Cornwall playing it.
We're not having groups.
Yeah, because we had groups last year. Because that's where we got Wakefield beating Newcastle by 110 points. And Max Jarrett didn't even play in that one. He could have scored all of the points, but he didn't.
Which was deemed to be a good thing.
That's what I don't understand, but it's the constant thing with
Yeah, but the
rugby, isn't it? We
1895
constantly
Cup,
change with stuff, and I don't understand why we changed the groups and why we've gone back to something. Well, not gone back. It sounds like a different iteration again.
When are we going to have groups in the Challenge Cup? Is that going to be next year? This has been like they say, look, we've tried it your way, and it hasn't worked because you all moaned. So now we're going to do it our way. Is that what we're going to?
And in fairness, I think that
The ghost of Maurice Lindsay is going to say, look, this is what we're doing.
I don't think this is how the RFL wanted it structured, by the way.
No.
Well, it was going to be a group, wasn't it?
I think it was.
But when was it? Was it 2 years ago we were in Manchester and they're talking about groups for the Challenge Cup?
And that was the IMG idea, wasn't it? Yeah.
And that was before grading had even come in and everything. So we've known this is on the horizon.
I think the seeding idea was a compromise, and it hasn't really worked.
When do compromises work? That's a deep thing for me to say. I don't know why I've said that. But... Proper derby, Dewsbury and Batley. I remember watching it on the old Rugby League Raw. Was it years ago? Yeah, it would have been Kevin, because now they're in separate divisions, but they might play each other in the cup. So the heavy woolen derby. Get the sportsman could show it.
You're not going.
I won't be there. No.
You don't even know you've got a Keithley on Sunday because the sportsmen are showing their game against York in the Challenge Cup. So Sunday afternoon. I mean, I'll be at work unfortunately, but no, fortunately, I get paid. I could have watched that. I could have watched Keithley. In fact, I'm on my break at that point, so I can watch that even better. Saturday, Rochdale Hornets versus Cornwall in the 1895 Preseason round. Sunday, Midlands Whitehaven Newcastle versus North Wales.
Newcastle now playing at Bladen,
Where the races are.
so they can sing the song.
Pre-season games on Saturday. Castleford versus Hull in the Joe Westerman testimonial. Leave it. Catalans versus Toulouse. French. Warrington versus Lee. Toby King testimonial. 5:30. Why 5:30? There's Luke Littler coming or something. Pre-season games on Sunday. Dewsbury Bradford. The what's he called? Mark. What's he called? Mark Sawyer Derby. That's it. Not Mark Campbell. That's a different one. Speaking of, they're playing Huddersfield. Featherstone Huddersfield. Where's a friendly that you think? No. Doncaster versus Wakefield. Pre-season games are strange. I know it. But that's this weekend's fixtures. When's the wheelchair back? When's the women's back? When are they back? If Bradford are in Super League, that's it. This podcast is pivoting completely.
Nobody said they were.
If you don't want to come in anymore, we're just going to talk about wheelchair and women's rugby league, and that's it. That's what we're doing. And the 1895 Cup. No, because I'll just quit.
Anyway, Wakefield are back, aren't they?
We're back. We're going to win Super League because we beat Castleford on Friday.
Favourites being Castleford.
Yeah, I mean, behind Salford and Leeds. Yeah.
What's their first game of the season?
Leeds is rubbish out this season. Brad Arthur's leaving and everything. Well, he's not, but everyone knew he was going to leave in a couple of years. Yeah.
Again, can't read anything into pre-season games, but the first 40 minutes at Headingley, it was a slightly different. Brad Arthur coached Leeds.
This is the second game that they've played this season. Leeds and Mayfield already.
Yeah.
Christmas was last year, so it's
true.
St Helens Salford.
Yeah.
This week is replicating the first round of Super.
Is that the one that's on the telly as well, or is that? I don't even know what's on telly. Well, they're all on telly, aren't they? Jake Connor, man of the match. It's the year of the snake, isn't it? It's the year of the snake. So Ash Hanley's going to be back on the wing now.
Could be. Or Riley Lunn.
Unless you sign all Salford's wingers, Dion Cross and...
He's going to Hull.
Is he? That's what Richie Myler says. Thomas has asked how's Scully doing. Have you spoken to him recently?
Right.
He's doing obviously not the best of time for him at the minute, but...
No, he's stoic. His mum's funeral is Friday. But he's okay.
Good. Anything else we need to talk about?
There was something, but I can't remember.
Oh, no. You'll remember once we finish, but it might not be broadcasted anyway. So.
What's in the magazine?
Are you in the magazine this month?
NRL Atlantic.
No. NRL Atlantic.
The big proposal is NRL Atlantic.
Oh, yeah, gone with the way the NRL Europe, it's now NRL Atlantic.
Yeah.
Because we now have NRL Pacific. So if we're serious, and if...
What, you mean like having teams like Toronto in competition?
The World League
Again,
of American football.
I think the logic behind proposing it is obviously limited, but NRL Pacific is going to end up with 20 teams. So the NRL are not far off announcing a team in Western Australia. And their last team to bring it up to 20 would probably be a second team in New Zealand. Yeah. But the money that's being put into PNG is also being put into Tonga, Samoa and Fiji. So that it becomes the sport of choice for all young athletes in the Pacific. And the plan, I think, is once they get to 20 teams to have 2 conferences of 10. So the idea would be if you were to have NRL Atlantic, there would be a conference of 10. That's where you'd start. And then you would add teams to that over an unspecified time before you can get to 2 conferences of 10 in this.
This is sounding like fantasy football.
It is fantasy.
You've got to fill the magazine every month, James. What do you expect?
What's the point of going to Las Vegas? What's your legacy on the back of that? It may or may not be.
There won't be, because it'll be classic rugby league. No, well, to be fair,
but it's a
5-year plan, isn't it?
Yeah, because this is the NRL, and it's a cashed up NRL. Yeah. There are people in South Africa that want to host a World Cup. How are you going to resource that country if it's serious about rugby league? It's not going to be through the MEA. There are people in South America who, if they were introduced to rugby league on a franchise basis, maybe worth talking to. Who are they going to talk to who are going to be resourced enough or financed enough? For people in Canada, it can only be the NRL. So NRL Atlantic covers all of those bases. If you never get to those bases, it doesn't
sounding
matter.
like the super. What do you call it? With
But
the
you're
rugby
also,
union
but you're also losing the.
Euro 13.
You're losing Super League, and I think we, as a marketing tool, have lost Super League.
To the women footballers.
And a lot of other sports who have. So if you brand yourself as something different, you stand out as something different. That's some of the logic in the magazine about why we think it should be NRL Atlantic.
I've got to say something else about Richie Myler in a moment, but before I forget, Rugby League's on TalkSport 2 again this year, so because no doubt when we go to launch next week, they'll forget to mention TalkSport, because they always do. Paul says, was that unfair of me? No. Paul says, apologies if it's been discussed as I missed the start, but thoughts on Myler's comments today on the decision to release Jordan Abdul. Well, thank goodness for Steve Mascord, who's on his
was
Patreon.
Paul in the Indian getting his takeaway? Was that why?
Different Paul.
Different Paul.
Excuse me. Different Paul. It was a difficult one. So I can't do Richie Myler's voice. I don't know what he sounds like. It was a difficult one because obviously we wanted it to work. Jordan has undeniably got lots of talent. I played against him, being under several spiral bombs which are horrible to catch. He just unfortunately couldn't get on the training field. Sat nav broken or something. A decision was made as a club that to move forward, to stand for what we want to try and build here, if people can't quite get to that standard, we need to make a tough decision. It was a difficult decision, and we wish him all the best that he does recover and he's able to perform at a level that he can get back to. It was our decision that we'd be a bit hypocritical with all the others and the tough conversations we'd had recently in pre-season and prior to the pre-season training starting, where we'd had to say, look, It's going to be the right fit to stick by that mantra and stick by what we want to try and put down here and achieve and build over a period of time. A difficult decision had to be made, and it was to release him from his contract. We were able to come to an arrangement with his manager, and as I say, I wish him all the best wherever he ends up next. That's Steve Mascord's reporting there of Richie Myler's words on Jordan Abdul. Began the Salford or Gull then, as we said last week, but or London.
Who, Jordan Abdul?
Yeah. Well, he has to go somewhere.
Well, what does that mean? Can't get on the training paddock, so injured.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of a time when a Super League coach said of a Super League player who was injured at a club that they'd had doctors check the player out and specialists, and they couldn't work out what was wrong with the player, but they wouldn't train. Now, this is obviously different because he doesn't say he won't train; he says he can't train. So
I think there's an inference in there though. That's my I don't know, because if it doesn't fit with what they're trying to do. This the difficult conversations that they've had, that all suggests that they recognise as a club that they're not where they need to be. They need to improve. They need to be better. They need to do this, that, and the other.
Has anything changed in Jordan Abdul, who was playing at Catalan Dragons last year and was signed by Hull FC last year when he was playing for Catalan Dragons, to the end of last season? Because I mean, I've not seen Jordan Abdul recently. I assume he's still the same. So
he's never looked a fittest player, though, has he? And you wonder whether it's the kind of injury that clears up come the end of pre-season, ready for round one.
Ready to sign for Salford when Mark Sneed moves to Warrington.
Fitness is a strange concept, isn't it? It's a strange concept. I don't know.
It's a merry-go-round, isn't it?
But it is a strange one because we would talk about Jordan Abdul in terms of his fitness that you wouldn't talk about in a female player's fitness, because it's this weird world we work in.
I can imagine Matt Sneed, if he's going to Warrington, will be talking to somebody at Warrington if he's not talking
he
to
he can't talk to anyone. He can't, well,
he can talk to somebody that lives in Warrington that doesn't have any connection with the club in Warrington.
Is that how it works?
I don't know.
Luke Little.
Somebody that might be walking past the ground or something,
Just having a chat with Luke.
Some pigeons are sent over with messages. It's like the Berlin Wall, I don't know. It's very strange. He suffered a setback with his knee in pre-season. As an FC fan, it isn't a good look, as it appears full due diligence may not have been done. If he picked up an injury in pre-season, what's the cause for the injury?
I think they've done the right thing by him by coming to a financial agreement. I just think if you go back to the press releases when he was signed, he was an integral part of what they were wanting to do, and clearly for whatever reason, and we're not party to it, so I'm not going to speculate, it hasn't worked out. And it's either a very brave decision by Hull to admit that what they were hoping for wasn't going to happen, so they've cut their losses early, or it's a recruitment decision that they now want to change because other players may be on the market that they think will do
It's a shame because he had such a good season at Hull KR the other year, didn't he? And I didn't really see much of him last year.
So is this going to be when we talk to Hull next week at the launch, is that going to be their talking point? We got rid of Jordan Abdul. Why did you get rid of Jordan Abdul? What's wrong with Jordan Abdul?
I remembered what I was going to mention. Squad numbers.
Yes, they're great.
Don't mean a thing.
Oh,
but
don't say that.
Very interesting what Catalan have done.
What have Catalan's done?
Artur Morg at 7. Ben Garcia at 9. I think that's interesting. Yeah, Sam obviously back at number 1.
Yeah.
Which has meant that where does Morg play? I would have thought Morg would play more hooker, because clearly they've lost Michael McAlory, and they have played him quite a bit of hooker, but they moved him to half with Luke Keary. In terms of numbers, it might not be how they line up first game of the season. And because they've got Oliver Partington, who's an out-and-out loose forward, have moved Garcia to the hooking role. If the numbers are too... That's a really interesting change of philosophy, I think.
You're not going to write an article next month saying how I think teams are going to line up based on their squad numbers, are you? No, Phil Kaplan Monthly.
The month coming up is the one where we try and predict where everybody's going to finish.
Oh, great.
That's when you should pull out last year's equivalent and see how well you did.
I just have.
Did you?
I did this weekend.
What have
Did
we
you
got
get any positions right?
Well, yeah, I think we all had Wigan winning.
Have we got any outrageous predictions? Because I was thinking about this the other day because I've got to put together my 12.
You've had London at bottom.
I underestimated Lee. I had Lee much nearer the bottom than they ended up near.
I seem to remember having conversations about that, and I thought Lee would do all right.
And I think Salford were the other one that we had outside of the playoffs who ended up in the playoffs.
And Hull, you can't have predicted Hull being where Hull were.
They were
Couple of
towards
The problem is that
bottom,
middle,
but
that
not
middle
at
lower
the
bit's all a
bottom.
bit.
Yeah, obviously I think we had Catalan and Leeds in the playoffs, and it was Lee and Salford.
Shock, you had Leeds in the playoffs.
It's dirty. Leeds bias, isn't it? Leeds bias.
I suspect that they
Just
may
wait.
in the next issue also be in a playoff.
Wait till I turn up in my Leeds shirt later in this season. Castle missing Rowan Mills need a halfback, says Ian. So there you go. There's Abdul, Hampshire, former cast man. Mark Sneed, all the other ones. And what was I going to say? I'm not going to make any predictions yet until after the Super League launch, just in case I have to speak to the coaches. Yeah. If I have to work for another organisation, I don't want to say, well, I think your team's crap, I'm going to finish 12th. But I'll say that the week after when, I probably won't speak to them again. Are we done? I think we're done. Possibly done. I think we're done.
Yeah, we've done very
I know.
You've gone big on the biscuits, 3 packets.
Well, these are from before Christmas.
One
those
for
are,
each week that we haven't been here.
Those are the official biscuits.
I've got
of
some more downstairs.
the Rugby League Vice President. She recommends those. So, yeah.
We've still not picked up a biscuit sponsorship, talking of...
No, and Bovril, that was it. We're trying to push Bovril this year and trying to get Bovril as a sponsor.
Tell you what, they're posh.
Pounding home in Heron Foods and not that posh.
I don't know. I like gold bars though. So.
You'll open them up. So yeah, we want to see how much Bovril costs at your local rugby league ground to take pictures of it, because we need some kind of content for the programme. James, thank you. We should we'll see you at some point in the future. I don't know when.
Yeah. I think we might be on alternate weeks. It's Harris swims on a Monday evening. So,
that's fair. That's a good enough reason. Yeah. Because there'll be a week after miss at some point. So that's good. You'll be here, Phil. Because should we get a guest on next week? Should we just not bother? Because it's still launch week anyway, so we'll find something rubbish to talk about.
Well, we might do some stuff from the launch.
Yeah, we'll do that as well. Should we do next Monday then, or not bother?
I'm still listening.
There's still 61 people watching. What are you doing? Go find something better to do. Leeds United are on in a bit, aren't they? What do you think we are? Thanks for watching, and be part of that 2.6% of our audience on Spotify who don't tell us which gender they are, or a non-specific or non-binary. We love you.